for today's meeting. We'll be going over sprint planning, and then also, I believe, sort of as part of that, we'll go over an issue that was brought up on the discussion list for VOL 475 to check the status on that. And let me, okay. Let me go ahead and bring that one up first. And let me go to a different screen. Oh, no, I'll just go to it here. Okay, so this one, it looks like this needs to be done after the VOLTA 1.1 branch is created and before tagging 1.1.0. And so this is bumping the ONOS apps to the correct released versions for VOLTA 1.1. And yes. Do we know, it looked like we're kind of on hold right now until this is done, is that correct?
Yes, yes, we're waiting for something there. Is David on? Don't see him. Yeah, so we just need to get a definitive list of the lockdown VOLTA apps. If you click on the Garrett review, there's a Garrett review for that that's showing what needs to happen. And click on the dependencies XML up in the file path there, right down below, over to.
Oh, here we go.
One file in there. Yeah, that's going to show what has to change. So on the right-hand side, we need to have we need to select the released ONOS app versions to go in there, and then that'll lock the VOLTA 1.1 release down to the correct apps. So right now it would be using the snapshot versions of those ONOS apps, and this is what we did last time for the 1.1. So I don't exactly know what needs to go in there, so we'd have to have anybody that's providing that has VOLTA apps for VOLTA needs to chime in on this one.
Okay, and I believe this one's not assigned to anyone currently. And
yes,
who do we have on the call?
Yes, I have this commit here, but it can't be assigned to me because I don't know what ONOS apps, and I think that's sort of collective from on the Garrett review is the known owners of VOLTA apps.
Okay.
You go back to do a back here, and on the list, I've put Amit, David, Sergio, and Teresa there would probably know. There's been a lot of activity on the VOLTA app side, on the ONOS app side. So, but so really, that's where I think this needs to come from. And once that's determined, I can commit it with the right versions, and then we're ready to go to tag the release.
So this is Sirisha. For those ONOS apps, to be honest, I am added as a reviewer, but I don't know what is included versus what's not to be included in 1.1. I think Amit and David are probably the best ones to provide sort of some here.
Okay. Yeah. See, this is the second time around on this. I think David handled it the first time, but I'm not really sure who should be really the ones that sign off on the ONOS apps that need to be in there, so we can tune that up here for this. So, and I don't think we have Amit on the call.
So what we're really doing is talking about just ticking up the versions.
Yep, picking up the lockdown version. So when you build VOLTA from the branch, it gets the right ONOS apps.
Right, and so it's just right now they're at a, what are they, 1.4 snapshot, so we have to make sure that they're the right version in the 1.1 branch, and then go to version +1 dash snapshot and master. Those are the two things.
Yep.
There's a couple gotchas about it with respect to the Docker builds, really, that have to be managed. It's just that I don't know who's assigned to it right now. It's a time issue more than anything else, from my perspective, anyway. Or is this the actual? This is the Garrett change that we're looking at. So you've already bumped them.
Julie, click on that once more. They're ready to be bumped. Okay, they need to go off of the snapshot, whatever the snapshot releases they are now, and locked down.
So this is the downgrade essentially.
Right.
Like AAA at 1.4.
Yeah, and
this is an example, isn't it, Kim?
Right. This is what the only change in here is removing snapshot. Now we need to get the right versions for, like, if AAA moves to 1.0, 1.4.0, we need to make that change in there. And I did not see that every one of the apps actually had a release. So that was the question.
Yeah, we were just releasing the ones that, let's be honest, that we cared about for VOLTHA, and that had changed. So we have to go back and make sure there is for each one that is a separate repo, we have to create a release support branch for the new version, change the version in that release support branch, make sure it's built up, and put up on the public Maven repos. Then we go back and change the master and change these dependency files. They have to be on the repo because that's essentially how the Docker's now, or the builds are pulling them down because we have a release dependency, not a source dependency. So there's a bit of a process here, and it's a time issue more. As I said, it's not terribly technical. It's just and it's not automated, which is a bigger problem. Both Jono and I have done this before. I don't know his schedule. So that's
and I haven't done it before, so I don't have the I don't have the process.
I mean, you guys can assign it to me. I don't know exactly when I'll get to it. I can kind of work in the background. It's about the best I can promise right now.
David, how long it would take for you to do this?
The changes probably about half a day. Assuming I can create all the branches and all the things, which I think I can, and then a little bit more while for the builds to go, and then a verification. John has always been very good at that, to do a double check on my changes, because there are just a lot of oops, you forget this thing, and things go south. So I'm going to call it a good day to get it all done. It's just finding that day to do it.
Because I think Nokia, you guys waiting for this in Atran and also Sienna, right? If we want to bring 1.1 into the lab.
Well, yeah, that or you kind of tweak what you got if you wanted the official version. Yes.
Yeah, everybody's been tweaking in order to get 1.0 or 1.1. You can still get there. What we're talking about is if we have a lockdown, this represents the lockdown release. So one thing we could do is we could lock down the 1.1 VOLTHA right now without the ONOS apps in there, and it would just be incumbent on anybody to make sure they've got the right ONOS apps to match.
Yeah,
I don't really like that.
I don't like that idea either, to be honest.
Yeah. So if we're going to do it, we should do it right. The only problem is I don't know if I could do it. I don't know. I've never been through the whole process, and I don't know if I have ability to make all those branches and all that stuff. That I think that takes court committer to be able to do that.
Yeah, this work does need to be automated. That's going to take more time. The work to get it done typically involves some bash scripting, just to inline bash scripting to get it done. Again, let me put it. Assign it to me. I'll put it on the back burner today and see if I can work on it in the background. And I will update status end of the day to the TST.
Okay, thanks. All right. I think any other issues that we need to dive into before we go into sprint planning for 1.1.x?
I had one.
Sorry. So on that one, so are the correct list version of each owner's app listed? So people, at least if they want to manually pull something, they know which version to pull. Is that
right now you're effectively pulling master or the 1.4 snapshot, the latest snapshot version.
David, we are pulling 1.0, not the snapshots. We are pulling the 1.0 released versions.
I guess what I was saying is, if I were people and you were deploying this in a lab, I'd be pulling the latest. I understand.
Well, I was told that we're supposed to be based on 1.0 or 1.1. Since 1.1 owners apps are not baseline, so we're still using 1.0 owners apps. Is that not right?
I wouldn't. There's some bug fixes that haven't been put in the 1.0, as I understand.
Yeah, but I thought the idea was to use 1.0 or 1.1 and not the master branch. But anyway, okay.
Okay, and Sarisha, did you say you had another issue you wanted to go over?
Right. Even the baseline versions for 1.1, I looked at them, and it does not include 434 yet. Although it's tagged for release 1.0.0, it does not include the fix for that, which is, in my view, the most important fix. Vol 434. 434.
Let me get there a different way. Sorry.
I thought you didn't want this. You had some issues with this one still, or are you okay with it as?
No, I want the unaltered max. I want the standard behavior, and then you can look at whatever you want to do for different deployment models. I want the standard behavior in the app because it's causing a. Yes, exactly. That's still not in. And can someone actually just put the standard behavior first and then look at how to solve the different deployment models? Because at least the vendors that are following standard will not have problems with it.
I mean, if this bug fix here, if the change here is really setting the default back to the standard behavior, this should be able to be reviewed and put in. Right now, it is against the 1.1 branch. Modify. So this patch here does have the client packet source dest mac, or modify the values defaults to false. Has anybody looked at the rest of the patch and said, Sarisha, have you looked at this patch and you're okay with it? You've +1'd it?
No, I haven't +1'd it because, like I said, I do not agree with the flag. I agree with the fact that you should not be, you should be taking out those 2 lines, which are now bounded by a flag. that's okay for me, but I don't agree with the flag. That's why I sent a mail to the stakeholders to see if everybody's okay with that, because it's much more than just what has been applied for this fix. Is much more than what is asked for, right? I mean, the fix was just not to alter the source and the destination MAC address, but now it's bound by a flag, and if that's okay, that's fine with me. That's okay with everybody in the TSP. That's okay with me as well.
Yeah. So right now, I guess I'm not quite understanding what you'd like. So right now, it modifies the MAC, is what you're saying, by default.
That's right.
And this patch, if I read it correctly, quickly here, just protects that with a flag. And you have two issues. One, that you don't think it should be modifying the MAC.
Right.
But if the TST agrees it's okay to have this in there, you're okay with it as long as the default behavior is not to modify the MAC.
That's correct.
So my interpretation of that is you either want this patch merged in or the patch that modifies the MAC backed out. That's
ideally, right, yeah, but it was not a separate patch that modified the MAC, right? The original the code that was pushed had that MAC, altering the MAC address in there as well. So ideally, it would be nice to just take those two lines out for this Jira ticket and then write a new Jira ticket as to how to deal with the deployment models, the different deployment models. I mean, first of all, I don't think that's right, but that's why I said I leave it up to the TST. It's not an issue for me, but I leave it up to the TST who has issues with that.
Oh, okay.
Whichever vendors have issues with that problem.
As I understand it, again, Amit's not on the call. So this code is, those two lines are needed by at least some of the vendors. Let's put it that way. So this patch as it is, I guess I look at it this way. If we submit this patch, Shrisha, you get your kind of default behavior that you want, although I understand you have some concerns about it even being an optional behavior in terms of complying with the standards. But it doesn't hurt your deployment and it helps others' deployments. In the balance, I'm kind of okay with that, personally. What do other people think?
Atran, do you guys have issue?
I don't think we have an issue that I'm aware of. I'll have to talk with some of the people implementing it. I don't think we have an issue with it.
And then the Redis, do you guys have an issue right now? Because you're not doing any testing at this point, right?
Well, we've completed the part 3, so, but, you know,
I'm still not
we would like the option. So I guess the default behavior is the standard behavior, and you have to take some action to change that. So, you know, we're okay with that since we submitted it.
So, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, a quick visual of this, I'm okay with. If you know, yeah, I guess.
Okay, so David, I guess that is everybody on the call, then all the representation on the call. So can you give a +2 and then get that merged?
I can merge it unless Adtran wants us to hold off until they talk to the developer that they mentioned.
Yeah, I think we're working fine with the DHCP Relay app right now, but I want to make sure that we're on the proper version.
So yeah, if you're working fine with the DHCP Relay app right now, I guess as it is, as in 1.1, and this patch applied would mean you need to set that flag to true.
Atran, can you guys take a look of this very quickly and get it back?
I'm trying to get in contact with Eric, and I'll send him a Slack message. And I'll go ahead and email both you, Sean, and.
Just a sec, guys. I got the ad trend guys right here.
David, just go next door. And
there's a patch that turns the flag on for modifying the source MAC address. Are you aware of that patch? So are you using, let's back off then, are you using 1.1 or 1.0 version of the DHCP relay app? I'm on the TST and we're arguing about this patch, and I thought, rather than have your guy call them, I'm right next door. Let's be a friendly neighbor.
David, just a small clarification. The patch that you're referring to is still open. It's not in either 1.1 or 1.0, so they may not have seen. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's I would
they're
say
using. All right, thank you. Appreciate that. You're using 1.1.1, which means you're modifying the source MAC address as DHCP gets passed. Okay. Okay. So if this pass gets pushed in, all that means that you'd have to set a flag to say true, keep that behavior. That sound cool? And if there's not, if you don't rebuild your stuff, you're good, right?
Yeah.
Is that good? And if it's a problem, I'm next door, yell at me and we can work it out.
Yeah,
Cool.
as long as I'm not
All right.
config.
So the friendly ad trend guys next door seem okay with the patch. So
you know what?
Agile process in practice.
We should have this kind of lockdown more often.
So I at this point I think we're okay with the patch. In terms of the overall community, not everybody's 100% happy with it. I understand that. That's okay. Well, it's not okay, but it's reality. The default behavior will be maintained with the standards. People can set it to do what they want to do. I think everybody's okay with it for the most part. What I mean by that is
okay.
Shouldn't affect bad. People can get the behavior they want. So I will +2 this. I will merge it. It'll be in 1.1. And when the branches get cut, we should be there. Sound good?
Okay, thank you, David.
Yep, problem resolved.
David, DHCP, the relay app is already at 1.1.0.
Okay.
So you're talking, when you do the commit, it's going to bump, right, to 1.1.1 or 1.2 or something?
If we're going to cut these as a release, that's a good question. What are we going to bump these to? We would have to cut it to 1.1.x+1, I suspect, if we're going to put it in the one branch. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So that would be it, because the version number you just rattled off is the current version, 1.1.0 DHCP L2 relay.
Okay,
well,
let me look at the branching. When I look at the branching, let me look at it, and I will post on the VOLTHA Slack team findings. I need a little more brain focus on that question about versioning.
Okay. Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Any other items before we go into the sprint planning to look at what we've got coming up?
Yeah, I have one. This is
okay.
from EdgeCore. We put a patch out on Cord, and Kim said that we probably shouldn't put it there because it has Broadcom code in it, and so I need to know a place where we can put that. We could put it on an ACC file, which is our file repository, but to get onto that, you have to have a login. And so I don't know that everyone that needs to get access to that patch has a login to ACC file. So I'm kind of stuck about where to put it. I don't know where to put it.
So, Rick, what the issue is, how has that been going out? You've been emailing that patch out directly, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
As people need it. All right, and so you wanted to avoid that by putting it
right
into, right. And see, that Jira doesn't seem really to be the right place to, to control those patch releases. And the other issue was just some question about because that patch is carrying some Broadcom GPL code. We just, it's just not extremely clear with Broadcom exactly how those exchanges were
kind of hoping Frank would be on the call too. So, but I don't see him here, so maybe
not this one. Maybe Wednesday he might. But so Tim, what should we push this a little bit more now with Broadcom? What do you think?
Yes, we should. We need them to give us an answer on how this patch should be distributed.
Yeah, because the patch and the documentation are key, and on the Jira we need to at least have the last known patch file version, whatever it happens to be. It was previously up there, so and I think in the documentation for the adapter driver that goes on the driver side of the code I'm working on, some of that right now is a release note in there can mention what the latest version of that is. So the question is, where actually does this patch come from, and how is it distributed? So I think we need to probably take that up with Broadcom for the next day or two.
In the immediate near term, there are a limited number of recipients of that patch. Could you email that out to those that request for the next couple of days until we get Broadcom to give us a position?
Sure.
Solve the immediate problem, and we will get them to commit.
Yeah, just have them send an email requesting the patch, and we'll send it to them. I don't really see a difference between if we're just going to give it out to everyone who asks for it, then what's the difference of putting it in Jira or having a public place to put it? So.
Right. The main issue is inside of the patch. Okay, Broadcom does have some GPL proprietary. It's dual license code in there. All right, and the origin of that code came from the Broadcom CSP. Right. It came from the that wasn't published in any other way. Right. And according to the to the terms of the SLA, you have to treat that by whatever license you got it from. So I think that it's just a little bit, cloudy on that. Right. I don't think there is no BAL code or anything like that in there. It's just driver code that it takes to make it work on Edge Core, in the Linux patches and things like that. But I'll tell you what, I'll see if I can have Frank look at the patch, and I'll bring this up, and then that might prompt, getting a decision. Or it could prompt it being embargoed too. I'm not sure which way it would go.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
So Tim, is this one you think we could, if folks have a status, they could give an update on the adapter call tomorrow?
I hope that we can get that on the adapter call tomorrow. It really depends on whether or not I can get hold of Dave Barron today. Right.
Okay. Anything else before we look at trying to scope in material for Sprint 1 for 1.1.x? Okay, then let's try and get to this now. What I've done is, just as a preliminary pass, I took the high-level items, high priority ones, and I think a couple other things, and moved them up, assuming we would take as many of the top priority items as we could, and then the rest are still in the backlog. We've got our mediums. We have this one as well, I think was as a new, no, this is an older item we looked at. So I think this is my first time doing the sprint planning, so I think we'd be going through these, looking at them, seeing if there's disagreement, if we can get, or if we can also, if there's agreement that they belong in the sprint, seeing who we could initially have take a look at things and start moving forward. So the first set I have here, we've got the VOL 473 IGMP proxy app. Actually, let me just take questions first. Are there any comments or process suggestions from anyone before I start going through these? Okay, I'm hearing nothing, so I will go ahead and move on. Then, so the first one is VOL 473, and this is IGMP proxy app, non-OLT connect point flows not getting provisioned. I think we'd had some discussion here before that we were going to target this one for V1.1.1, and it was opened as a high priority, and Sean had added a comment here about the need to find out which ONOS app will be getting updated for this as well. And let's see, any questions on this one? Okay, the next one, VOL 463. This is Chameleon not used by VOLTA, but still in repo manifest and being built. So this was listed as well. And it sounds like the last we heard was there was some preliminary testing underway to see the effect of removing it. So I think probably there's no objection to this going in sprint 1, but questions from the group? Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
Sorry, I was on mute.
No problem.
Yeah, on that one there was some preliminary tests to see if VOLTA can build outside of, not in the presence of Chameleon, and that did seem to work. Although when you look through the entirety of VOLTA, there are many, tentacles in documentation and scripts that may or may not be used anymore. So that one had just a little bit more work than what I wanted to put into it at the time. So.
Okay, thank you.
So who can pick this up?
Let's see how long is the sprint, first of all?
Oh, I'd better. Now I unfortunately left my notebook where I can't access it right now. So Tim, do you have those dates offhand, or do you have the chart open, or Sean, do you have the sprint planning chart open?
What we talked about was opening the sprint today and closing it on I believe the 20th.
Okay. Thank you.
So about 3 weeks.
Yep.
That's for sprint 1.
Yes. So Kim, it sounds like you were the one working on this one. Should you be the
I did some
assignee?
on it.
Or should it be someone else?
So let's assign it to me, and I'll continue on. Hopefully we can get the the current release out from under her hair, and I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I will do that offline right now.
I can do that while you're.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, and why don't we go back up to 473 then also, and actually it has an assignee already. Okay, so that one has an assignee. 475 we were just talking about earlier on this call, so it sounds like this one is going to be done prior to this splint. I moved it up here for right now.
Yes.
but I think that one will be closed out.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then it also sounds like VOL 434, which we talked about earlier, it sounds like that one is going to get closed out prior to this sprint as well, pending the review. And then, so Sirisha, if something needs to be done for a follow-up to reinvestigate the behavior for the long term in terms of that flag, then we'll have to work that separately, I think.
Okay.
Okay. And then for 460, a mechanism is to configure required CVID values in VOLTHA. So this one has no assignment currently, but I think this one is, let's see. Oh, actually, we're discussing this one tomorrow as well. Okay, so this one will have discussion ongoing. My hope is that we can get this into VOLTHA 1.1.1, and that's where we have it currently targeted as well here. So
Julie, is there
yes?
Is there a meeting set up for that?
There is a meeting set up, and I'm having some.
It's tomorrow, I believe, after the adapter meeting.
Yeah,
so I set it up in here. This is the first time, so it's showing up on the Cord calendar, but I don't think it sent out an invite to folks, so I'm not sure yet. It was the first time trying to set it up in the system. So we do have it scheduled right after the call tomorrow, and it shows up on the Cord calendar. I have not figured out how to get the notices automated from there yet.
Okay.
And Chip sent an email out to a few of us with a really good summary of I think the issues with the current flow decomposer and related parts. So.
Okay. Great. So I think pending the discussion tomorrow, hopefully we can get that resolved and keep it in this sprint. And then 454, AAA app doesn't use status config in all cases. And this one, okay, this must have changed because this was shown as a blocker for 1.1. Oh, but we do have it as a fix for 1.1.1. Okay, so this one is in progress currently, so I think no changes are needed there. And the next
any
one,
update
yes. Pardon?
Is there any update on it, like what's going on, when a fix is expected? Because we often see several times there's a workaround that you can restart the apps, but we see that either AAA app doesn't take the customizer configuration, or DHCP relay doesn't take the connect point. One of the apps will never work, so we have to go into a case every time we have to manually inspect and restart those apps. So is there sort of a timeline on when this could be resolved?
I don't see any additional notes there, so I can, let's see. I can ask for an update to be posted in JIRA on the current status. I'm not sure if it needs a larger group to discuss this.
Okay.
As additional information, we've also seen it twice with the DHCP application. It doesn't pull in the...
Yeah, and right. It's almost the percentage of it failing is very high, and it succeeding with the first go is very, very low. We have to almost manually inspect it. Yeah.
Okay, let me. This is who's this assigned to? Varun. Okay.
Yeah. Just like
let me give him a ping on that and ask him to update the JIRA.
Okay, David. Just one point I wanted to mention is I know that this is written very specific to SADS and AAA, but I think there may be something that's common to all the apps and not just SADS and AAA, because this is one of
Yeah, I think this I think we talked about earlier, might be an ONOS issue that we need to bump it up to, but this is a symptom that we need to figure out what it really is.
Okay.
Okay, and it looks like it was frozen, but it's there now. Okay, I think we had talked about this on the last call. Nope, no, that was a different one. Never mind. Okay. Okay, next one is VOL 435, NPE and OLT app, in OLT, when port status changes and gets deleted. And actually this one's assigned to David, so right now we're looking at sprint, the first sprint for this.
It's fine.
And let me scroll down, okay, thank you. And I pulled one up that was a high priority that was way down, so early on. OpenFlow 13 incompatible for C++ based components. And so there was a workaround earlier, which is why it was not addressed. So I haven't heard anything more on this, I don't believe. So since it is labeled high priority, I targeted it for the first sprint here. And do we have, and there is an assignee.
That's Nurse assigned him to himself, right?
Yes.
Astrisha, do you know whether this one can be?
Well, is it assigned to Niren? I'm a little surprised it's assigned to Niren.
It is. Yeah. It is currently.
Okay, I'll have to check because I think the way it stands right now, we made workarounds, not in VOLTHA, but we made workarounds on our device side to cope with that. But on the I don't know if other vendors are having this issue or not, but it may not be a must fix for 1.1.1 if other vendors able to work around this issue as well. So this is a core issue, and I think it should be, somebody like Ken or, someone who's responsible for the core take a look at it. That's why I was wondering why assignee was needed. I'll check with him and then I'll get back on this one.
Okay, should we change the assignee, do you think, at this point?
Why don't you open 330?
Probably should be unassigned at least.
Yeah, but he assigned it to himself, it looks like.
Yeah, I'll check and get back on that. I don't know.
Okay. Do you want me to unassign it right now? Oh.
Sure, you can do that. I'll check and get back.
I'll leave it and wait till I hear back from you.
Okay. Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, he assigned that to himself in July, and there wasn't really any meaningful updates since then.
Okay, I'll check and get back.
And then 330 is the next one. Admin state message different from Common Proto incompatible to C++ components. And so this was another one that opened back in July.
Right, this is similar to the 329. Yeah. Different problems, but kind of similar side effects. Basically, when VOLTHA, since it was using mostly Python, when the proto files were defined, they didn't really look at possibly the devices using the same proto files that may be using C++ compilers. So when the proto files are defined, we need to make sure that they are compatible both with C++ and also Python. And this is also another side effect. And there was a long discussion about it in one of the TSTs, and Ken said it would be a lot of impact. So he said it won't be wise to do that for 1.0. Having said that, we have worked around this for the device as well. So it's not that important for us right now, but again, if the other vendors, since none of them have complained, I'm hoping it's not important for them either. So maybe it's not a must fix.
Go back to the reporter and ask if it's still a high priority on both 329 and 330.
Okay.
Yeah, the reporter is Niren, and basically, it's what I mentioned is what right now it's not high priority for us because we have worked around. We changed the protos on the device side, and we have worked it around on the device side. But ideally, we'd like to use those on the device side.
Sean, I think you're on mute. So Sean, you're asking if we could. Oh.
Did you have a question, Kim?
Yes, yeah. So
Or-
I understand that a little bit more. So those protos, like in the VOLTHA core, that's what we're talking about. The protobufs in the VOLTHA core, which is primarily Python code. That's what's being used today. And you mentioned the device side. So trying to use those protos on the device side. So does that like span across the adapter? Why would the device need to interact with core components directly through those protobufs?
So we just want to take out another translation layer. Adapters use the same protos today. For example, if you're using OpenFlow messages, the adapters use protos within those OpenFlow, like, update flows in bulk, right? So we use the same thing in the device too, just to avoid translation. I mean, why do several layers of translation, right? So in using the same protos, those protos are not compatible with C++ compiler, gRPC compiler.
Right. Understood. Okay. So you're bypassing a layer. So
Yes.
Okay. Understood why that's being, why you need it. Right. Okay.
So
But we have worked around it. Go ahead.
is it potentially solution Nokia knows how to resolve this?
It has to be resolved in the core. The core has to change the protos so that they can be compatible both with C++ and Python.
Okay.
But it's a lot of impact in the core, and that's why Ken said that he thinks it's not wise to do it for 1.0.
Okay.
If it's
So potentially, maybe we can put this in 2.0?
probably, yes, I think.
Almost makes more sense because that's going to be a compatibility
Right.
change and such. So it seems like a 2.0 thing.
So
Yeah, in my view, both 329 and 330 can be moved to, it's not must fix for 1.1.1, so we can move it to a later release.
I think let's think about 2.0 right now.
Do you want me to move it there now or wait?
How about put in 1.2 or VOLTHA Future? That is fine too. I mean, I'm thinking of maybe 1.2. So when we get into 1.2, we will. I don't think 1.2 will be that much framework change. But AT&T right now is thinking about potential 1.3 release. So that's why I put it 1.2. And then so when we go into the 1.2, we can see whether the story for 1.3 is solidified or not. If not, then that we can put it in 2.0.
Okay.
Does it make sense? So we can move
I
this
think
out.
so. So I'm going to move them back. Well, they moved a little further than I wanted. So I'll move those back out of the sprint for now. And then the next thing we can do is start looking at the backlog for, it looks like there's one more high priority item on the security side related to Chameleon. And then we have medium priority items after that. Does that make sense?
If the Chameleon got removed, then would
right.
that?
Right.
Yes. So I think this one would end up in there. And so I don't even, that's why I didn't put it there now because I don't know if this needs to be worked.
If we remove Chameleon, we should take the time to
right.
try to fix this.
The item I have still is folks had flagged for the Chameleon items if they were still applicable to Envoy or not. So I don't know if we want those questions answered before we close them once Chameleon's removed, but that's something to consider. So right now I have this one outside the sprint because I'm assuming that Chameleon is going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can think about whether or not we need to
I would think
open a different ticket
stories, or stories
yeah.
or tasks to address security with Envoy rather than calling it a bug.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. So let's see. 462 is the next one that's on the list, or actually, why don't I, since these are just a block of medium items, I think we've gone through all the high priority. If we look at the medium priority bugs, we should try and figure out which of these we have cycles for to cover in this first sprint, and which ones are the highest priority of the medium ones for the team.
And we're not considering the edge course adapter related stuff in there, right?
I think that would go on tomorrow's call.
Right.
Is that right? Or Tim, do we need to cover that here too?
We should cover that on the adapter column.
Okay.
Okay.
To do some, yeah, we can add adapter work into these sprints, but right now we're talking about what we're targeting for release 1.1.1 and in sprint 1.
Okay, so we do have a few of the medium priority ones. If I scroll down a little bit, you'll see there's a block that we had originally looked at as candidates for 1.1.1. So maybe we'll go ahead and start looking at those. So the first one is Vol 406. Docker log files can grow unbounded.
David, is Sergio next to you?
Kind of, yeah. This one I thought was signed to me, wasn't it? I guess it's not assigned to anyone.
It's unassigned currently, yeah.
Throw that at me.
Okay.
Please. Decided I wasn't being polite. That wasn't. Sorry about that.
But do you think we can put it into 1.1.1? Sprint 1?
Sprint, yeah, there should be a configuration change and test on the compose files. So it shouldn't be that much. And I'm asking for it to be assigned to me right now. I may pass it off real quick, but it just gives us someone to track it to.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And David, sometimes you have to know how to say no.
Well, the good news is I'm hopefully saying yes for someone else, not myself. So it works out okay.
Okay, so we'll put that one in the sprint for now, and then we'll see what happens. The next one in this medium category where I've got one higher up here. Nathport, the hard-coded in Ono's AA app.
Really?
That one is shown as in progress and assigned to emit currently.
That would be bad. All right.
Yes, and we have this one as needs to be fixed by 1.1.x. I'm expecting, should we target this one for sprint 1 as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially we have something going on right now too.
Yeah. Okay. It's assigned, yes. I think we're good there. So let's move that one to sprint 1. Okay, now all external software versions should be nailed down. This is, let's see, restated as need for lockdown versions of all external software. And who's this opened? Okay, and this is assigned to Sergio currently.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in a previous TST. There needed to be some type of VOLTHA VOLTHA core API that can be called to go to all the components in order to get versions.
Okay.
Such, so it's almost like another feature add rather than a bug fix.
In that case, this
I got the
not
impression
appropriate
this
for the
was
sprint.
something different. This was that, or this is when you install software, we need to the software we depend on version needs to be nailed down, such as doc. You can't use apt-get latest type of thing. I thought that was what this was about.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's. But then there still needs to be a way to find
yes,
out.
I agree. We need the other one too. It's just not this one.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. So we will move
That's correct.
up to
Sorry, I just wanted to mention, yeah, that's correct. What you mentioned is what that Jira ticket is about. that we need to lock down the versions that are used to build the VOLTHA Dockers. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is VOL 419. Flows not past the device adapter if more than one PON port is created on the logical device. And I believe we're talking about this one tomorrow too. I think this one, again, we're targeting for 1.1.1. So hopefully sprint 1. And we'll see how the discussion goes tomorrow. Okay. Next, support iTest for configurable alloc IDs and gem ports. And, okay, this is from Chip. And originally when we looked at this a couple of weeks ago, we looked at putting it in this release. Any objections to that at this time? Okay.
Chip?
Yeah, it's just it's just testing, so test code. I can try to get it in this release. Things don't go too crazy this week.
Okay. And then VOLTHA 276, OF agent and OMCI unit tests are failing. So, yep, still being seen from a couple weeks ago. Okay. And this one is assigned to Satish.
Is Satish on break this week?
I suspect so. He's not on the
Yeah,
call.
Yeah.
How we move it into sprint 1?
Okay.
Yeah, that team's out this week.
Okay. And VOLTHA Health goes down only in high availability mode. This one's assigned currently. Yes?
So was this added by, I know that there's been several similar Jira tickets. Is this the one that was opened by Shiva? Okay, I see that, yeah. Yes, this is a problem, and we have been able to find the root cause for this. It's to do with console leader election failing, and we have seen that several times in like microservices like VMs, which do not have a lot of disk memory and compute power. And there is a setting for console that we had to investigate, and basically console uses Raft protocol, and there's a setting that you have to set in the Raft protocol on what the multiplier should be, and based on that you need to tune it according to your compute. And once that was done based on the computes that we were using, it looked much better for us. I'm not sure how others are working around this. Maybe everybody is using big compute servers, so they don't really run into this issue. So we need to look at either discussing with Sergio about it. We just figured it out like last. We need to work with Sergio and see how we could make that configurable so that it could be fed into the YML files and taken accordingly.
And potentially it should learn about the environment and then maybe do the setting automatically.
Yeah, or it should be something that is documented, and at least we know where to change. Yeah. I'll I know everybody's been busy, but I'll work with Sergio to get this. Yeah.
Do you think this one needs to go in the first sprint, or do you think it's a little bit beyond that?
I would say beyond that, because
I could just move it to the top of the backlog so it's easier to find after, but I'll keep it out of the sprint for now. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, and here's an edge core one, so I think that one, do we need to talk about that today, Tim, or for oh, and we're over time. I am sorry, folks, lost track of time. So we are done.
455 is being that's being worked on right now at the moment. Hope to close that here within a day or two.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone. I think we made some good progress getting started. So I'm not sure what needs to be done for kicking off the sprint. If
well,
so, Tim, maybe
we'll start. Yeah, I can help. We'll start the sprint. We'll declare the start date is today. Then we needed to declare whether the close date is the 20th or the 23rd, which would be the day before the next sprint starts.
Okay.
So preference in the community. Should we run it through the
20th?
20th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We'll keep it on the 20th. Okay. So Tim, why don't you and I work that offline, and then we'll take a look at things later. I think there's an adapter call tomorrow, and then a targeted meeting as well for those two VOLTA issues, 460 and 419. So thank you, everyone, and I will go ahead and stop the recording and talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.